Districts, That's the Ticket, the ultimate podcast exploring all things Gas South District and a source for insights to events on campus and discussions on the wider entertainment and tourism industry. Please welcome the host of our show, Stan Hall, CEO of Gas South District and Explore Gwinnett.
Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us today for this episode of That's the Ticket. Our guest today is Lisa Anders, the Executive Director of Explore Gwinnett. We're going to talk about the topic of tourism and all that is included in that world. I think you might be a bit surprised about how big of a business it really is here. And Lisa, welcome to the show, and thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Dan.
It's always great to see you. Lisa, for the folks who are listening today, when you think of tourism, I suspect that Gwinnett County is not the first thing they think about. Tell us a little bit about that whole tourism world as it applies to where we are here in Gwinnett.
Well, I think that's a fair assessment. I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize the scope of tourism in Gwinnett because the tourists here and the visitors here look just like them. People are usually surprised to find out how many hotels are here. We have over 110 hotels. Of course, the Gas South District is our convention campus, and that's drawing, 1 million visitors a year. But we've got all sorts of other assets in Gwinnett that draw visitors during the week and on the weekends. That includes Parks and Rec. It includes golf courses. It includes Lifetime Tennis Center, which hosts major pickleball tournaments all summer long. So every place that a resident probably, knows about, or maybe their kids go to summer camp, or maybe their kid plays travel baseball, those are actual visitor destinations in Gwinnett County.
So I'm glad you mentioned the point about hotels. For Explore Gwinnett, hotels is a really, really big thing, right? Talk about your relationship with the hotels here in Gwinnett.
Well, Explore Gwinnett, for those who might not know, is what is called Gwinnett County's official destination marketing organization. And so our job is to drive visitation to Gwinnett County, whether it's a leisure visitor, whether it's a convention attendee, whether it's a sports tournament attendee. And we do that with a sales team and a marketing team. And we work to bring visitors who come into Gwinnett, spend their money in our hotels, spend their money in our downtown restaurants, who, shop here, go to Topgolf, tour the Hindu Mandir, whatever their interests are, and they spend their money here and then they leave. And so it creates a giant economic impact. Visitors in Gwinnett County spent $1 billion last year, which is a number that constantly surprises people.
That is a big number. If I was the owner of a hotel in Gwinnett and I heard about maybe a convention that was coming to Gwinnett, how does that communication work between your office and that hotel owner about trying to perhaps get that business for the rooms in their hotel?
We have a sales team, and they deal with specific groups by their expertise. We're also really fortunate. The diversity of Gwinnett helps drive a lot of international business, both cultural and professional and civic, to Gwinnett County. One of our sales directors is fluent in Mandarin and has extensive contacts across the Asian American community. So we're fortunate to be able to bring a lot of international groups to Gwinnett. We have a communication system, a software program where we communicate with our hotels on a daily basis. They know what is needed. They know the information that we need for a proposal or a contract. And so we're constantly bidding on that business. And, it's not just that they want to come to Gwinnett. We have to compete with other areas. So we're maybe competing with Athens. We're competing with downtown. We're competing with the airport. So we have to make sure that our hotels are putting their best foot forward with rate and with package. And then we have to kind of package everything together to sell the destination, because it's not about staying in a hotel when you go to a convention. It's about selling the experience of what your attendees are going to enjoy while they're here.
So one of the things that's interesting is when we see some of the events that come here, we typically think of the convention center here at Gas South District, but that opportunity for events goes well beyond the campus of Gas South District.
Absolutely. There was a good example is there was a conference here 2 weeks ago, the Georgia Association of Career and Technical Educators, which is a statewide education event, which brought several thousand teachers to the Gas South campus. It was a complete buyout of the convention center campus. It was a large location at the Westin. They were the headquarters hotel. Plus, they also had a lot of adjacent meeting space. But it also sold out over 15 hotels, both in the Gas South
Mhm.
District convention area, but also into downtown Lawrenceville, downtown Duluth, the Pleasant Hill District, down into Peachtree Corners. And that's the kind of pieces of business that my sales team works on most extensively, because we want business that impacts every single area of Gwinnett County.
So would you mind also explain a little bit about sometime the meetings, the conventions, some of the things that come here to Gwinnett? I often wonder, how did that person even find out about Gwinnett? And talk about that process where you said you compete for it, but you also, you go to them. Talk about that process.
Right. Our sales team, like I said, divided on whether it's sports business or an association type meeting, a medical meeting, corporate, things like that. They have a whole myriad of tools that they use to draw business. A lot of it's based on, it could even be local and community relationships. You think about the organizations that people that we know belong to.
Mhm.
Well, they attend meetings. So we may even reach out to our local contacts and say, hey, what meetings are you attending? Try to bring those meetings here. Our sales team, in collaboration with our hotels and often with the Gas South District, we attend this year. I think we're going to about 22 trade shows across multiple markets throughout the year, where we're meeting one-on-one with meeting planners, talking to them about why Gwinnett. And a lot of times we may partner with some of our colleagues in the Metro Atlanta region to sort of sell ourselves as a region. And a lot of times we may partner with the convention center, because we've got a $250 million renovation and expansion. That is a great message for us to
Right.
sell.
Right. So the other thing that I wanted you to talk a little bit about, when people think about convention and visitors bureaus, and some of them use that name and others use different names, such as Explore Gwinnett, whatever that might be, they immediately assume that a CVB is typically a government agency, and perhaps based on the bureau at the end of it. Talk about the real affiliation you have as far as your organization is concerned.
Sure. We are a 501c6 nonprofit organization.
Mhm.
We are not affiliated with Gwinnett County as an official government agency, but we have a long-standing collaboration and partnership with the county. We have a memorandum of understanding with them and have had for 3 decades to be Gwinnett County's official destination marketing organization. And we're also really, really fortunate because we have a number of cities in Gwinnett County that also are home to hotels. The hotels are actually in the city limits. And we have long-term partnership and agreements with all of those cities. And that's what really sets Gwinnett County apart. We're the only county in Georgia where all the cities who have hotels, we're at 98% of those hotels are under one county umbrella.
Mhm.
If you look at other areas in Metro Atlanta, you'll see a Dunwoody CVB, a Sandy Springs CVB, a Tucker CVB, a Decatur CVB, a Brookhaven CVB, and those locations may be 5 or 10 miles apart. So the marketing efforts can be, very different in an immediate area. And for us, we're able to market Gwinnett County as an overall entity, which is a huge bonus. So we're really fortunate about that. And we have great relationships with our cities. And, the cities are the hubs of sort of the downtown entertainment hubs, of the independent restaurants, a lot of the events. So that's a lot of our marketing efforts are surrounded by those city partnerships.
From a traditional perception of what tourism is about that most people would have, are there places in Gwinnett that are the number one tourist attraction? Talk a little bit about that. Are they things that people really do come to Gwinnett for a traditional tourism experience, coming to a location for a specific site, whatever that might be?
Sure. I can think of 2 examples. One is the Baps Hindu Mandir, which is located on Rockbridge Road in Lilburn. A lot of people probably have driven past it and wondered, I wonder what that is.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or maybe they've just never driven past it because they don't live in that area. But it's stunning, stunning cultural heritage site. And it's in Gwinnett County, and it's the largest Hindu mandir that's east of the Mississippi. It was built about 10 years ago, completely by hand and completely by volunteers, which is astonishing. Um, It's our number one and one of Metro Atlanta's number one cultural attractions or destinations because it is a house of worship. So we don't really use the word attraction, but destinations. They, over the past several years, they have had over 250,000 people visit that site. They have hundreds of tour buses go through their school trips, field trips, local field trips. So it's so unique and it's so authentic. And that's the beauty of it. Because when you have something that nobody else has, that really makes it a destination. And the other one that people probably go to on a regular basis and have no idea of how much visitation it draws is the Mall of Georgia district.
Really?
A lot of people make up there, oh, I went to Macy's, whatever. But they don't realize that that mall has over 10 million visitors a year. And about 20 to 25% of those visitors are regional visitors. We're spoiled in Atlanta because there's a mall around every corner. You can find anything you need if you need to shop, but without realizing, go north 100 miles, go west 150 miles. It may be a retail dead zone. So people do weekend trips to the Buford Mall of Georgia district all the time.
Stay in the hotels here.
They stay in the hotels, they shop at the Mall of Georgia, and now they've done a really nice job of turning that area into more of like an entertainment district.
Yep.
They have Andretti, they have Topgolf, Coolray Field has baseball games, the Environmental and Heritage Center. So there's a whole bevy of things that people can also do there in addition to shopping. So that's a very popular weekend and family-friendly destination.
So you mentioned a little bit about sports when you talked about the baseball, the Stripers over at the Mall of Georgia area. I do know that sports tourism is a huge thing as well as far as bringing people to this area. Talk about why you think that is and a little bit about the information regarding sports tourism.
We are very fortunate. We have a division called the Gwinnett Sports Commission, and their focus is bringing in sporting events only. And so we've got two really talented people who that's what they do every single solitary day. So they're working not only with Parks and Rec, they're not just working with professional teams, but they're doing the same thing as the other salespeople where they're meeting with planners, they're meeting with NCAAs, they're meeting with SECs, they're meeting with ACC, they're meeting with all levels of tournaments to try to bring them to Gwinnett. We're fortunate that we have the arena. It's an asset that so many other people don't have to bring in events to Gwinnett County. As I mentioned before, Lifetime Tennis Center has become a hub of pickleball, which is one of the fastest growing sports in the United States. We're fortunate to have a professional golf tournament here every spring. That draws a lot of visitors. So every single day they come in with what tournaments can we bring here? How do we work better with our Parks and Rec facilities? And we're really fortunate. We wish we had more fields. With 1 million residents, our Parks and Rec fields can be difficult to utilize.
Right.
So they're constantly working to fill any open dates that are there, and they're doing a really good job.
So I think that from what I hear, the sports tourism is people are literally planning their vacations around a tournament that their children are involved in. Instead of going to the beach for a week, they go to Gwinnett County for a lacrosse tournament for a week.
Absolutely. I mean, there are lacrosse tournaments, soccer tournaments. Perfect Game Baseball is another one. I mean, a lot of people are familiar with that one, and they're housed at Lake Point, which is up in the Ackworth area. So you're like, why would they be in Gwinnett? It's that big of an event that they actually utilize baseball fields here. And people don't stay by Lake Point if their kid is playing at Duluth High School or some other venue. So we get a lot of overflow during the summer as well. And if anybody, if your child has ever played travel sports, that's kind of what your vacation's about until they get out of high school.
Exactly. If you think about the reasons to come here, whatever it might be regarding tourism, if it's religious based, if it's sports based, if it's true conventions that you might have at a convention center, which one of those sort of leads the pack as far as the number of events, the number of visitors, et cetera, categorically?
We're very fortunate that we are not dependent on one type of industry. A lot of areas are, and a lot of people do really well that way. But if something happens, the economy, if you're completely dependent on the corporate market and the economy struggles, that will immediately impact you. Gwinnett's a very diverse county, and
Mhm.
we've also diversified all of the markets that we're trying to attract. So if you looked at us as a pie chart, it's fairly even across the board. It used to be very heavy and faith based.
Mhm.
We've balanced that out for a lot of reasons. That ability to have a diversified pie of business is one of the reasons why Gwinnett rebounded so well post COVID, and it's one of the reasons why we continue to do well. Gwinnett County, a lot of people are surprised to hear in our regional area, there's about 12 areas that are our competitive set for hotel occupancy, and Gwinnett County actually is leading that area in occupancy and has for about the last 5 years.
And tell me again why you think that is. What is it that really brings that number to Gwinnett where other people may be struggling a little bit with occupancy rates?
I think it's the diversification of
Mhm.
the markets
Mhm.
primarily. Um, we don't depend on one type of business. And yeah, ours went down in COVID when business travel dropped and when, leisure everything dropped, really, let's be real. But we aren't waiting for 70% of our business to come back in one market. Everything went down a little and then everything comes back a little. So to me, it's the diversification of the market.
So diversity in Gwinnett, we're something that we're really proud of, and we brag about how diverse our county is. You guys have done such a good job in getting involved in that diversity, and one of the examples I want you to talk a little bit about is the Soul of the South. So tell everybody what that is and what it's grown to today, based on a particular niche and cultural diversity that we have here.
Yeah, Soul of the South, well, it's a little bit bigger than this, but ultimately it really started out as an initiative to educate our hoteliers in the Gwinnett Place area about the breadth and depth of the Korean culinary scene that surrounded them. And part of the struggle was there are a lot of amazing restaurants over there. It's really one of the top Korean food destinations certainly in Metro Atlanta, probably in the Southeast. But people are unsure about it. They were uncomfortable with it. We wouldn't have hotel staff who would recommend
Hmm.
this amazing restaurant because they weren't familiar with it, or the sign wasn't in English, or the menu wasn't in English. So they would send them to a chain restaurant that was
Right.
next door, which that's not really the experience that is memorable, I
Right.
guess the best way to put that. So we actually came up with an idea to do a Korean food tour to train our front desk employees to take them there, to let them experience it with a Korean food tour guide who would also talk about why food was served this way and what the importance was, or the history and the heritage behind it. And we did it, and it was very successful. And our hotels, we got great feedback from them. And as we sort of thought about it, we thought we could probably do this and sell tickets. And it would be a great way to also kind of market this area, because just like our hotel front staff didn't feel comfortable with it, we felt a lot of residents were not aware of it. So we started marketing it. We call it Soul, SEOUL, of the South.
Catchy name.
It's catchy, it's registered, it's trademarked. And we started that about 9 years ago. And we have a tour guide who's worked with us the entire length of our experience with Soul of the South, Sarah Park. She's incredible at it. And we do it from May through October, once a month. And we really didn't know how it was going to go. It's 4 food stops, and it's in a truly immersive experience. And it's a lot of food. It's not a taste.
Hmm.
We put it this way: we recommend don't eat breakfast and maybe don't eat dinner the night before. And so we rolled it out there, didn't know how successful it would be. And we put all the, May through October tickets for sale, and we sold them all out.
Hmm.
We're like, wow, we might be onto something. And 9 years later, we have never not sold out a tour.
Hmm.
And we rolled out our tours this year in April. And we ended up only being able to offer them to our wait list because there was so much demand.
Hmm.
And then we added a couple of tours so we could, offer it again to our other people who are waiting, who are not on the wait list. And it's just grown exponentially. We do some private tours. We've done a lot of custom tours, and we sort of expanded it out this year to do like a DIY Korean food tour where it's not like a paid food tour, but we've got sort of a guide on, hey, if you want to do this on your own, here's where we recommend going. Here's what we recommend trying out. And then we've expanded that to include some K-beauty stops and some of our kind of favorite spas and things like that. And it's also been really popular as well.
Sort of like a beer crawl, right?
It is a beer crawl, and there might be a Korean beer in
There
that
might be.
food tour.
But in the beginning of it, you were really just trying to cater to people who were here to introduce them to that market. But now there's people who come here just for the tour, correct?
Absolutely. Our last couple of food tours, it's been about 50-50 of local attendees. And then we have people from Florida, we had people from Alabama, North Carolina. And when we ask them and we'll say, hey, what are you in town for? Is this like a side hustle for a family visit or whatever? They're like, no, we came here for this.
Yes.
K-pop and the Korean food scene, people may not realize, at the arena at Gas South, they do a tremendous amount of K-pop concerts.
Mhm.
And I doubt there's been one that hasn't been sold out.
Yeah.
The demand is really huge. So we are finding people who are just coming here for that quote Soul of the South experience.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another type of tourism related to film.
Mhm.
And film tourism is a real thing too, isn't it?
It is.
So tell us about your participation in that business. So
Well, Explore Gwinnett, we are also Gwinnett County's film office, and it's kind of been an evolution. We were originally named what they call a Camera Ready office, which is an innovative program that the Georgia Film Office started about 10 years ago, where they were overwhelmed by the demand for their staff.
Mhm.
They don't have a huge staff, and they were super busy with all the filming. And they asked every county who was interested to designate one person who would be the point person for film and production crews, and also to kind of set a framework and procedures for productions coming into an area. And so I am the camera ready person for Gwinnett County. And so we sort of started that, and that was, our first experience, not really sure what we were doing, learning as we went along, as they say. And we put together a structure and a procedure and started doing more working with productions, meeting people, creating relationships with our studios, and really started building our locations gallery and our relationships. And it's just grown every single year. We became a film office about 3 years ago, and we actually are getting ready to get our accreditation as a film commission this year, which we're super, super excited about. And Gwinnett has become one of the busiest hubs for filming in Metro Atlanta. So at the film office, we are typically the first point of contact with productions. We facilitate the permits, the road closures, public safety offerings that productions need. We do a lot of the communication and logistics between the production teams and the locations. We do location photography. We do the location databases, just all the things to really smooth the process. And Gwinnett County, we're super, super fortunate to have buy-in for filming at the top from Gwinnett County government all the way down, but also from our city governments all the way down. We've got point people at every city who handle filming now, so we can facilitate it super easily. And I'm in 2022, which is probably our normal year, because 23 or really 24, 23, we had a strike. We're averaging about 350 to 375 permits a year, and we're up to about 500 locations. And so over the past couple of years, we sort of expanded out, and now we're working more into some film events and film workforce development, which is kind of our next phase. And those things, workforce development for film and TV, and those have been super successful. And that's been a big focus over the last really year as well.
So for somebody who might be listening today and asking the question, why would a tourism organization be so interested in the film industry? Talk about the impact that it has, not only, I guess, from the hotel motel perspective, local economy, but talk about what that business has done to the state of Georgia economically.
Yeah, there's I mean the big reason for Georgia being number 1 in filming is based on a tax incentive that was implemented. There's a maximum 30% tax incentive, which is one of the most robust in the world. And so before that incentive was implemented, the impact from the film world was about $70 million a year, which is not insignificant, but last year was $4 billion. And that's all based on the tax incentive.
Mhm.
Um, it's amazing what a TV show spends. I'll give you an example. The TV show Ozark, which was very popular, filmed in Gwinnett County pretty extensively, and the studio stages were at Eagle Rock Studios, which is one of our 3 studios in Gwinnett. And their annual spend, not all in Gwinnett, but all in Metro Atlanta, was $35 million.
Mm.
And that's one TV show. And there are typically 400 productions that film in Atlanta or in Georgia, actually, in a year. Not everybody's spending that same amount of money, but so much of that falls into the hospitality world. It falls into food. It falls into restaurants. It falls into hotels. It falls into film studios. I mean, the economic impact is huge.
So you know that I'm a little bit of a movie buff. I enjoy the movies as much as anybody.
You like to go to movies by yourself a lot.
I do. I really do. But talk about the movies that have been made here, really in Gwinnett County, some really big popular movies that no one would ever know that were, for the most part, made right here in Gwinnett County.
Yeah, I mean, I will say there's no movie and there's no TV show that's probably 100% filmed anywhere.
Mhm.
They'll have a stage someplace, but they do locations. But a lot of the big productions that have been filmed here, a lot of people don't know that OFS, which people may know used to be called Lucent Technologies, and it's located on Jimmy Carter Boulevard right off of 85, is now actually OFS, fiber optics company. But part of the building, the majority of the building is owned by Gwinnett County, and it's been utilized as a movie studio for the last probably 10 or 15
Mhm.
years. And they are primarily a filming location. And just at that location, there's a laundry list. The Hunger Games, all the Hunger Games were filmed there. Several of the Fast and Furious productions were filmed there. The Allegiant series,
Mhm.
Allegiant, Divergent, Contingent, whatever the third one was, were all filmed there. Most recently, these are ones that people really have no idea. Black Panther 1 and Black Panther
A lot of the
2
Marvel movies.
were filmed there.
Yeah.
A lot of Marvels filmed there. A lot of Marvels down at Trilith, but they've had quite a bit themselves. They've had several Tom Cruise productions. The Avengers, Captain America. People would be surprised, and one of the reasons productions like filming here is because they can fly below the radar.
Mhm.
In tourism, we like nothing more than promoting. So we have to sort of turn off
Mhm.
that meter when it comes to film because we don't post about it and we don't share what's going on because our success is in flying below the radar.
Yeah.
And then we've got another studio, Eagle Rock TV Studios, which is located also in Norcross on Best Friend. They have 2 studios. Eagle Rock owns 2 studios, and they do a lot of TV. They're the largest TV production studio under one roof in the United States.
Wow.
And so Will Trent, which is a super popular show on ABC Disney, recently filmed there. Their season, they'll be coming back. Ozark filmed there forever. So there's a lot of TV productions that are filmed there all the time. Tulsa King, which
Mhm.
is that Sylvester Stallone show that's very popular, is currently filming there.
Wow. So you have to be a little quiet about it, as you said, with your meter, but that economic impact revenue meter is going off the charts a little bit as far as what that brings in, again, for, in this case, film tourism. So,
Absolutely. I mean, we have a tremendous amount of hotels that are, our hotels are typically, candidly, not going to be the stars locations. They will stay in Buckhead or they'll rent private homes typically, but we get a lot of crews that stay in Gwinnett. So it's a great piece of sort of extra business for our hotels, especially our residence inns and those type of hotels where they maybe have kitchens and we have crews stay there for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks sometimes.
you and I remember very clearly 2020 and all the negative ramifications that
Correct.
took place during that time. A lot of the good things we're seeing even in 2021 and certainly leading up to this, are based on what some people surmise as this is just people who were so pent up and couldn't get out. Now they're determined they're not going to stay at home. They're doing things. Do you think that's a real thing as far as what we see in our numbers relative to hotel numbers, et cetera, here?
Um, Hotel occupancy and visitation in Metro Atlanta is always going to be a cycle, and it always has been. I've been in this business for 30 years. You're always going to have 3 or 4 years of absolute increased growth. You're going to have a dip, and it may be a recession. It may be a business slowdown. It might be a worldwide pandemic. It just depends. It is without fail. You will see it happen every 6 or 7 years. It's just really how quickly you rebound. I will say in the last 3 or 4 years, so many fundamental things changed. So after 21 into 22, there was so much pent up demand. It really did change the landscape of travel, period. And I think everybody would say that's true because, and we're still there a little bit. Weekend business, especially in a business centric market like Metro Atlanta, business travel or convention travel, group travel would always be higher during the week. And then leisure travel would be slightly lower. That was a constant. And that was upended by COVID, that it's completely the opposite. It would be business professional travel slower during the week. Leisure travel was off the charts. Those things have balanced out, but they're much more consistent now. And I think that's probably a permanent change. And, in film, you see some of the same. It's a little bit different, but post-COVID and then also post-strike, people are sort of riding some unbalanced ships. So you look at people like Netflix, people like Apple TV, the streaming stations. COVID caused people to stay home, and that caused them to develop hundreds of TV shows.
Yeah.
But they've realized that's not sustainable in the long run. So you're starting to see them pull back from a lot of those shows, whereas a Netflix might have produced 300 shows in 1 year. They're doing a third of that now. So we're seeing a dip in production activity that's directly related to sort of riding that ship as well.
I think one other thing I wanted to talk about with you today is when you think about the hotel industry, how it's not new anymore, but as far as people renting their homes out for tourists that come into town, how has that overall impact been on the traditional hotel motel tax world, if you will? So,
well, for a long time, it was a little bit of a detriment because Airbnb, VRBO, and all the other short-term platforms, of which there are a myriad of them,
right,
weren't paying sales tax, and they didn't pay hotel motel tax for a long, long, long time. And there's been a lot of legislation and advocacy in our industry in order to change that, to make it more of a level playing field. And so about 3 years ago now, I think it was July 21, that actually changed. And so now if you go to an Airbnb or you go to a VRBO, when you pay online, you're actually paying hotel motel tax, and you're actually paying or occupancy tax, and you're also paying sales tax, which is super important. And so that's been helpful. I think, cities receive a portion, the county may receive a portion wherever that short-term rental is located. So I think it's important to make it an even playing field. I think people are really surprised how many short-term rentals there are.
Yeah.
In Gwinnett at any given time, and the number changes all the time, there's 1,400 short-term rentals.
Wow.
Yeah. People are all very surprised. You would be
Yeah.
amazed how many people are doing that. Might be a room, that might be a guest suite or something like that, or it might be a full home.
But they're all falling under that category where they do have to report now based on the same concept as a hotel.
Correct. If they pay online officially through the portal, if they have a private arrangement, I doubt that happens. But if they do it through Airbnb or VRBO, yes, they're required to do
Well,
that.
and if I'm not mistaken, you were very instrumental in getting that situation in Gwinnett sort of formalized, if you will, to make sure that there was a fair assessment and fair reporting of people who were truly in the same business under different umbrellas, but you were involved in that part as well.
We did. We worked a lot, both with some of our local legislative partners as well as our state advocacy group. A lot of outreach to our legislators who are all very supportive. And it passed pretty easily when that actually came for a vote, which was
Yeah.
helpful.
Well, good. So let's finish up with something that's a little bit of a one-off that you do through your office, but I think I would think it would have to be one of the most rewarding things that you do in your designation as a arts grants rewarder. I don't know how to best say that, but you can do a better job of that. But giving money to nonprofit arts institutions who need that money to survive. Talk about that a little bit and how that came to be.
We develop and administer a program called the Gwinnett Creativity Fund.
Isn't that what I said?
Just exactly. It's been around. We started it in 2020, which is super timely in the middle of COVID. That was some
Yes.
good planning. And it came out of some advocacy from some local arts leaders who were hoping to secure some governmental support. And they advocated very strongly for it. And Charlotte Nash, who used to be the chairwoman of Gwinnett County Board of Commissioners, and I had a conversation on a trip. We were actually walking back from a baseball game,
Mhm.
and she knew that these people were, wanted more support, but was kind of figuring out how it would come to fruition. And I said, I have an idea. Here's how we could do it. If you'll help us by supporting us and providing the money to do it, we'll do all the work.
Mhm.
And she was like, that sounds like a great plan. So we started off the Creativity Fund with some funding support from Gwinnett County, about $200,000 a year. And we created project grants and operations grants for originally 501c3 arts organizations, arts, cultural, entertainment organizations. And then we expanded it to include 501c6s. And we did a lot of homework before we started the program because there are a tremendous amount of obstacles in most grant programs that really small organizations cannot
Mhm.
overcome.
Yep.
And so we tried to do a lot of research to take away those obstacles, still make it, a challenge or make it something worth applying for, but not making it insurmountable if you're an all volunteer organization. And so we started that in COVID, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because we were actually able to support organizations that maybe might have closed during COVID. You never
Mhm.
know. And it's grown every single year. In our next cycle, we will top $1 million worth of giving over the last 5 years, which we're super excited about. And we have awarded, I just looked at it today, through a couple different grant programs, almost 200 grants, 202 grants over the last several years. And this year we actually expanded it to reach the school system. And we created an additional small program called Gwinnett County Public Schools Arts Micro Grant Programs.
Mhm.
And we extended it to middle schools,
Wow.
which was, we're like middle schoolers are sort of the lost generation. They're not cute little kids anymore. And high schoolers,
funny
yeah,
sometimes.
they're, we've all had middle schoolers. And it's been great. We have had 20 recipients out of the 35 middle schools so far, and it's an ongoing program. And we offer a $1,500 grant to each school for art supplies. So arts, theater, dance, it could be any aspect of the arts department. And there's just a lot of permanent reminders of the impact of the Creativity Fund, especially in public art, which is one of our favorites. A couple of examples that we've either contributed for or paid for. And like I said, it couldn't be done without the support of Gwinnett County. The new mural, the I-85 underpass
Mhm.
mural, which was done by the Hudgens Center in partnership with the Hudgens Center and the Sugarloaf CID. 2 murals in Swanee, the astronaut mural, which is in Swanee Old Town, which is one of the very best ones I've ever seen. I love it. And the Corey Barksdale mural, which is at the entrance to Town Center Park. And one of our very, very favorites that actually kicked off our micro grant program for the school system is Lilburn Elementary School did a mural last year that the kids participated in, done by professional artists. And they did such an amazing job on the project. That is actually what made me think about the Arts Microgrant Program. So
Yeah.
it's got a special place in our heart, and we love it so much. But public art is sort of our thing. We love that because it also ties into destination appeal. So those permanent reminders that arts and culture are important to Gwinnett County are really important, not just to arts, but also to tourism and to hospitality.
And arts are so important to everything we do. And it's always the first thing that gets cut when times get hard a little bit. So congratulations on that program. Well, Lisa, for those people who are listening today who want to learn more about your office and what you do, what is your website so people can check you out?
Our website's exploregwinnett.org or gwinnettfilm.com or gwinnettcreativityfund.org. We have each one for each one. And if anybody has any questions, they can always email me, lisa@exploregwinnett.org.
Absolutely. And I know you know this, but for the record, I just want to say you guys do a fabulous job and such an important part of our community. So thank you for everything that y'all do.
Thanks, Dan.
That's all the time we have today, guys. Be sure to check out gassouthdistrict.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. You can find all episodes of Gas South District, That's the Ticket, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for joining us today. We'll return soon for another episode of That's the Ticket. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. For show notes and further information about Gas South District and upcoming events, please visit our website at gassouthdistrict.com. That's the ticket.